and this year it's Zachary.
Please be seated. Well, it is certainly great to see all of you tonight. I'd like to take this opportunity right quick just to thank everyone that participated in contributing into this event, particularly our caterers. I think they deserve a round of applause right about now. Yes, very good food. I would like to recognize at this time my grandparents that are here today. They've been very encouraging to me throughout all of this past, well, actually really all of my educational career, but certainly in these past 4 years to go through the IB program. So thank you very much. So whenever I was selected to be speaker of the class, I was a little surprised because a lot of people tell me to shut up a lot of the time. So I'm like, why do you want me to speak? And so I said, okay, well, what do you want me to say? And they said, oh, just be yourself. And while thinking to myself, you know not of what you speak. Anyway, regardless of that, I am honored and privileged to have been selected to be student speaker for tonight. And in true IB form, I did begin this speech promptly last night. Technically this morning, 3 a.m.-ish. I hope in this speech to bring to mind just a few of our memories. I could go on and wax eloquently about all the wonderful experiences that we have had together, but unfortunately I can't encapsulate the past 4 years. So I will do my best in these few minutes that I do have. But I would like to bring to mind some memories of the past and then give a little inspiration for the future. So if you're ready for this, I don't see. Sorry, nerd reference slipped out there. All right, so allow me to open with this poem in the fashion of haiku, which was inspired by Eric Hernandez.
Yes.
I've made many friends. I didn't want it to end. Baccalaureate. This has been indeed quite the journey. 4 years ago, I was a gangly, awkward freshman with no social skills. But as you can see, I'm slightly taller and I have a little more facial hair. But I also have with me 24 of the best, closest, and dearest friends that I've ever had in my short life so far. We all didn't begin our experience with the IB at the same time. Some of us were sucked into the vortex back in middle school. I think it was Hogg Middle School, right? Yeah. Good job, you guys. But as for me, my experience came 4 years ago whenever I sat down for what felt like a 9-hour discussion with Miss Martin. I had a very low attention span back then. But she told me all about the IB, and I became convinced that this was the best organization since NATO or the United Federation of Planets. And so, thoroughly convinced as an 8th grader, I said, this sounds wonderful, sign me right up for it. So my next experience with the IB came that summer in 2008, whenever we had our wonderful Camp Tyler experience. Until that day, to me, IB had been nothing more than just a faceless group of people I'd never seen, couldn't really imagine. I mean, I knew a few friends from my middle school, but to me it was just, who are these people? What will they be like? Will they like me? Do they look like me? But I'm sorry. So, at Camp Tyler in 2008, this was the first reunion of the IB students. And I remember it was the most awkward and uncomfortable experience that I had in quite some time. There were about 70 or so of us freshmen that we were... There were about 70 or so of us freshmen. Some of us estimate to be about 90. I don't remember at the time. Because while everyone was all stuck off in their little groups and friends from middle school, I was walking around shy. And apparently apparently some thought I was talking to trees. Apparently. Anyway, it was an interesting experience, but it may have started on an awkward foot, but it was definitely the beginning of something. Yes, the IB. And a few weeks later, after the Camp Tyler experience, we entered into the halls of the soon-to-be Robert E. Lee Elementary, as it is sometimes called. But we entered into this wonderful school as freshmen. And ninth grade was our year of establishment. We met our Trekkie Miss Tobin, if you remember her from World Geography class. And we also, those of us that were in French, we met Madame Defont. And Miss Duncan, in our English class, she introduced us to Shakespeare, well, most of us to Shakespeare, with her wonderful rendition of Romeo and Juliet. Good job. Meanwhile, in the math halls, Miss Norris was enduring all of our ninth grade freshman shenanigans and reminding us that we were indeed freshmen. But who could forget Miss Sorrells and her infamous sweater? Yes, ninth grade was the year that we got our feet wet in the IB. After being inducted into ninth grade, we came back as sophomores, prepped for another year, and we put our craftsmanship to the test in the plethora of physics projects in Miss Lester's class. Trebuchets, mousetrap cars, roller coasters, quite exciting. We also learned the history of the whole world with our wonderful world history teacher, Miss Marler. And speaking of the whole world, let us not forget how Mr. Ward in our statistics class taught us the importance of not acting like a null hypothesis. You'll get it later. Also in this statistics class, I met a new friend. A new face that had traveled from halfway across the world to our little planet. And unfortunately, she could not be here with us tonight, as she is back in her homeland. But I would like to recognize our friend, I'm not going to say her name wrong or attempt to get it right, because she'll just pick on me. She always did that, by the way. For 3 years, I always thought I was saying it right, and she said, no, that's not right. So I'll call her Jade, since we all know her as Jade. And she came to our little clan, and she wanted me to mention tonight how important, because I talked to her, I asked if she wanted any input into the speech, and she wanted me to mention tonight how important and how valuable our friendship that we showed to her was in our sophomore year. She said that if it wasn't for us, if it wasn't for our camaraderie, she probably would have dropped out in the beginning of 11th grade. So good job, guys, for Jade. But Jade was not the only one to come halfway across the world into our little group, because early in our sophomore year, we were introduced to someone who hailed from Singapore and had survived wars in Lebanon and come all the way to the exotic pine trees of East Texas to teach us English. You met her earlier as Miss Tanner. And my first impression of her was, oh no, she likes annotations. All hope is lost. However, in time, I was able to see that she was not an evil annotation overlord, but she was instead a teacher, a mentor, and a friend. And Ms. Tanner, as you ship off on your next great adventure, I believe that I speak for all of us when I wish you the best of luck in all of your future endeavors. And on the note of saying goodbye, in 10th grade, we also said our au revoirs to Madame Defont. And Miss Gatewood joined us from Maryland. Yes, right. And at the end of 10th grade, we stood on the real IB. We stood on the edge. We had gone through the pre-IB, but now we were here at the diploma program. It was coming. We were bracing ourselves. Some of us looked into the face of the beast and proclaimed, the challenge is accepted. While the majority said nothing to do here and jumped ship in what became known as, well, to me anyway, as the Exodus of 2010. Yes, like I said, 70 freshmen, not 70 seniors. 10th grade. So junior year came upon us, and junior year is notoriously known as our hardest year, regardless of if you were in IB or AP. Just high school is the hardest year. If freshman year was like us getting our feet wet in IB, then junior year was a baptism of fire. Fortunately, we had two guides to help us through this new crucible, if you will. Our new coordinator, Miss Ace, had joined us. He's here tonight. And we also had another guide who realistically explained the diploma program in a fair way that made sense. He had a wonderful ponytail, Mr. Stevens, who I don't think was able to make it here tonight. Excuse me, wasn't able to make it here tonight. And we also met a psychologist, well, some of us met a wonderful psychology teacher who was known to the most as Miss Bayless, but known to her first period in the morning as Vicki Bayless. Miss Bayless. And then, after our junior year, we reached our last year. The past year was a year of endurance. We started in August with the end already in sight. And for months, we dragged ourselves forward until finally, sweet respite, we made it to Christmas break. And then, as we came back, it became a mad rush to get everything done. These mythological creatures of extended essays and IAs and IOCs, all these things that we had heard of, we had heard the stories. But now they were facing us. And all that we had feared for the past 3 years was now a reality. And no, it was not difficult just on us, because we caused a considerable amount of stress as Mrs. Tyler Smith begged and begged and begged and begged for our internal assessments. As did Miss Brooks and Miss Story. And Mr. Showen, who begged for actually probably about everything. I think we might have turned in collectively about 6 papers on time. Maybe 1 early, but that was on accident. And then after all of these internal assessments, these EEs and all this stuff, we came to the grueling exams. And after what felt like an eternity of possession of unauthorized materials is a breach of regulations, we eventually made it through that as well. We made it. Class of 2012. We made it through all the way back freshman year here tonight. And as we look back, we can see this journey that we have made. And the teachers who to say helped us along would be a grievous understatement. And as we look back, we see that the 70 or so freshmen are now 25 grown seniors. And as we look around, we remember those that dropped out. We remember those that we miss, and those that we don't miss. Just kidding. Just kidding. And as we look back, we see the late night frantic homework Facebooking, the sleepless nights, the desperate texts, and the monthly picnics that weren't so monthly. We see the essays, we see the paperwork, the annotations. We see the silly film projects, the lunchroom discussions, and the epic basketball showdown, which happened between Mr. Gashanis and Mr. Lewis. Looking back, we see our friends. We see our family. We see IB. But the question is not what we see looking back, but rather what we see looking forward. Well, when we look forward, what we always see is the future. The future, a big, ominous ball of wibbly, wobbly, timey-wimey uncertainty. And as we step through the Stargate and boldly go, we are told, the sky is the limit. And that is true. For most people, the sky is the limit. But there are a select few for whom the sky is not the limit. John Glenn, Neil Armstrong, Luke Skywalker, just to name a few. For most, the sky is as far as you go, but may I remind you, my friends, that there are indeed footprints on the moon, and droids on Tatooine. I believe that the IB class of 2012 is that select few. So I challenge you that as you go through life, to reach and leave your footprints on the moon and find the droids that you're looking for. What I mentioned tonight is just a small snapshot of the IB experience. There's plenty left unmentioned, some for a very good reason. Yes. Do I need to go into those emails? I would like to say in closing a very sincere thank you to each and every one of you, to each and every teacher for your dedication to this great program. As awesome and fantastic as we seniors are, and we know it, but the IB program would not be the great organization that it is without you. And so we thank you, all of you, every single teacher, for accepting every piece of legwork that we ever turned in. And giving us mercy for every tear that we cried. Please, I just want to pass. Thank you for helping us through those exams, projects. Thank you very much, teachers. And to my comrades sitting at this table over here, I would like to thank you for making this experience so wonderful. I could not ask for better friends with whom to share this IB experience at all. Each one of you are very dear and near to me, and sincerely my closest friends. And so my speech is now concluded, but I do have one last thing to say, and that is that as we go forward, we say our goodbyes. So long, and thanks for all the fish.
Say you chose the right person for that speech. That was amazing. Thank you. And as I was listening to everything and thinking back, this group of students and working closely with them this year, sorry Mr. Showen for all the interruptions. His was my favorite class to come in, and more papers. But, you know, we hear on the news, there's so much wrong with education, but I'm here to tell you there's something right with education. These kids are what's right, and they have done an amazing job. And we do have proof that there is life after IB, and IB actually helps you in college, and so at this time we have two former IB students, Corbin Lackey and Jane Post. If you would come forward, please.